Hey everybody, how's everybody doing this morning? So I hope today finds you well. It is the last day of summer, but it could still stay warm, you know that. So first of all, thank you everybody for joining me. Thank you for my subscribers. Uh, and T-Bird, thank you for being a member. He's been riding with me a long time. You are my first member. Thank you, T-Bird. I appreciate your support from day one. So the icons are on there. There's different levels. I'm not going to do that advertisement. Let's get right down to it. The Mafia and the numbers racket. You never hear about the numbers racket. What is the numbers racket? You know how they have the daily number, a 3-digit, like 456, and then they have a 4-digit number, 26, afternoon and evening numbers. Well, back in the day, way back when, it originated in Harlem, I believe it. They came up with, and they didn't have the balls like the state does it, like the government does it. But back then they used to have the numbers, and they would use at the racetracks the total of all the bets and the handle and everything. They would use the last 3 digits, like, more or less. That's where they would derive that number back years ago for the numbers racket. You never heard about this racket in the Mafia, and it generated tens of millions of dollars. And back when the numbers came out in the late 80s or whatever, but my pet number for the 3-digit was my daughter's birthday. So, and so what they would do, I never talked about my godfather, who was close to the Colombos and did a lot of work for them. I never talked about with the numbers because, but I saw the Colombo descendant talk about it on a show with one of the guys that had the biggest numbers going. And what they would have is they would have they'd have all the stores. They'd have all the stores, and where all the local people could go in and play their numbers on a sheet. Well, that's Mary from Avenue A or whatever, and and they would play their numbers, and they'd all be recorded. And then if you won, you get paid, boom, right then and there. And they paid better odds back then. So when the government came out with the numbers game, they don't even give you the true odds of like combinations are there. There's 000 all the way to 999. That's 1,000 combinations. So you'd figure if you played $1 and you won, you'd get $1,000. But New York State only offers $1 straight, being $600. So they're shaving $400 right off the true odds. And the New York State, it takes in millions and millions and billions of dollars, and it's just like a slush fund. Well, where's the money? The roads, the schools, and everything. Where's all the money from the New York State Lotto? So, but when the Mafia was running it, they had places at these shops and the stores, and they would feed it right back into the community. If somebody was struggling in their community, they put it back in. And they also shopped and bought the items, high-end items. They kept that money generated in a ripple effect for, economically speaking, kept it in there. When you go to all these 7-Elevens and all these outlets to play the New York State lottery and lotto, where's the money? It just goes away. It just goes right away, and then they take a piece of the action. And then if you win over 1,000 or whatever, you got to sign and show ID. With the Mafia, you don't have to sign nothing. Here's your cash. No IRS. No IRS. So they derived the number from before. I think somebody said the Dow Jones index or something, the stock market, they would use the last numbers of the volume or something of the stock market. But nonetheless, and so you could have 200 shops in your location, and they would space them out strategically instead of being all on top of each other, I reckon. So they would have runners that would go to all of them, pick up the paperwork, pick up the money, and then whoever was in charge of that area, they would turn it over, and they would run it accordingly. And my godfather, I think the Colombo and the Genovese did it too, and I mean, they are all trying to run a good numbers racket. You never hear about it in all these mob channels. It generated tons and tons and tons of money. And I think after a while, the FBI had agents delegated to just investigate the numbers thing, because they didn't even realize it for a while that what was going on right under their noses when they're investigating other types of rackets, that they were making 40, 50, 60, 70 million dollars a year, just based on, everybody goes shopping to the deli, to the store, to here. But when you go pick up a loaf of bread and a gallon of milk, you can put your numbers in. Very convenient. Very convenient. And now you have a 7-Eleven, and say the 7-Eleven takes in $10,000 worth of action that day from the numbers in the lotto, a convenience store. They only get 6% of the gross for taking all that action in for New York State. New York State ain't paying the rent, the electric, the employees. New York State's not putting anything, but you see they all have the lottery machine in these convenience stores, and they want you to move away from the cash register when you're selling your items, and you got a line of people waiting at the lottery machine over there to get waited on, and then you gotta jimmy around when the New York State's only giving you a ham sandwich to have that lottery in there. So it's terrible. New York, the government and the New York State rackets, I mean, I've said it before, they were worse than the Mafia. Worse. They're worse than it. And then when the Mafia discloses how much they made in certain geographical areas, and these old timers are first, and it's verified stuff. It's common knowledge, tens of millions of dollars. Now that was kind of under the radar. Now you got the government doing the numbers racket. So you'd have to multiply times 100 of what the Mafia made. And you realize how much money the government is generating on lottery and the numbers game and scratch-off tickets. Where's the money? Where's the money? Check your tax statement. There shouldn't even be any taxes in New York State. There shouldn't be any school taxes. There shouldn't be any property taxes. There shouldn't be any income tax for the money they generate. New York State is one of the most corrupt states ever in a federation. It is totally worse than the Mafia could ever imagine. They got carte blanche. Now, my godfather, he would tell me, when he was older, and then I would say, well, my numbers, my daughter's birthday, boom, 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 613. I played it every day. The numbers, I played the numbers every day, 613 every day. And then he would tell me, before I watched this video the other day about Colombo's kid that was explaining some of it with another guy that was one of the most profitable guys that ever did it. And my godfather was with the Colombos, more or less. And when I would tell him, yeah, Mickey, I got my numbers and stuff. And he would say, oh, Jojo, man, you don't understand. You see all this other stuff of all these other, he says, but they made $1 billion, not millions. This is before he passed away. He said they made $1 billion, and the FBI didn't catch on to it till a little after, when people were getting pinched, and and people become rats. They just say, "Hey, FBI agent, guess what? Cut my sentence in half, and I'll let you know what Gino Marcelli's making at the corner store over there running numbers." They're like, "What? Oh yeah, blah 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 blah." So it became like that. But Harlem started it, I believe. And they had another way of deriving the number. Like, how do you derive the daily number? Well, they had a different way. I'm not sure what it was. But the Mafia used the horse racing totals for that day, which they would call the handle. The handle is a term for how much money people bet, do that. Persico was in jail, I believe. I'm not sure. I think Persico was in and out of jail. There's other people running. There's other people running a lot of things, Mr. Spataro. So, yeah, they were running, but all the families. Now this is rare with the mob families when it comes to millions of dollars. All the families, because they were going to just get greedy and just start setting up running shops, numbers stores all over the place. But they sat down, all the families, and they says, you know what? We're going to just make sure there's, geographically speaking, we can't have one store on top of another where you are able to bet the numbers. So they sat down like businessmen and strategists and figured out what stores were what. And so people, they tried to keep it fair among the stores. So, and the store owner would get a piece of the action. They would get a percentage, sometimes 60-40, 50-40. And they had a lot of people on the payroll. They had to pay the Mafia. They had the runners all over, and they had something called like the company, and then they had the corporation, these different terms where it was just a hierarchy of employees and who you had to pay and everything, which was substantial, but it didn't matter. They made so much money. And all that money stayed within for all the employees they paid, and people were shopping in those stores. It just it kept the money in the economy for businesses and everything to thrive. Where does the money go when you bet on football? To the sports, to the casinos? Where's the gambling money go there? It goes to the Indians or FanDuel or Sport Kings or whatever the heck, DraftKings. Where's the money go when you play the New York State Lotto? Where's the money? They don't even do an audit on it. They'll just doctor something up. Where's that money? It's gone with the wind. It's gone with the wind. The government hides it. It's just like, where's those crates of money they sent to Iran or to wherever, the Gulf War? Where's those crates of money? They create these things which are called slush funds, and it's just money that you create in the name of something, and then there's no oversight on it. There's no oversight on it, because if they were telling you how much why are there taxes? Why is everything going up when they take in millions and billions of dollars? So why would Joe Blow, a New York State citizen, have to pay any type of tax? They're slick. They're worse than the mafia. At least the mafia had the scruples enough to keep their people in. If somebody was struggling or something and they couldn't keep up, they would help them. They would help them. And they had big parties. They had big parties for everybody that bet the numbers, big Christmas parties. They handed out gifts. They had birthday parties for people that couldn't afford it. They had confirmations, communions, banquets for everybody in their community that dealt with it. So, that's just the way it goes. The government became worse than the gangsters. How do you think when the Vegas started? What do you think the government and the legalized gambling went? Well, they had to get all the wise guys to go out down there and teach how gambling is run. They had to use the wise guys, the mafia, to go to Vegas and say, this is how you run it. So that's that. But my godfather told me a lot of stories, and he roamed around Harlem too. And those guys with the rackets, the numbers rackets that actually started it, and then the mafia caught on and everything. And he said them guys down there, they weren't your regular like street level dope dealer guys. These guys were serious high up guys because they were generating money that was like whisper money behind the scenes, that they just saw somebody going in the store and betting $4 on the numbers, and they just thought, well, that's just a minor little thing. But little did they know, when it came to multiplying that exponentially to all those shops and everything, it's $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a day. 10,000 a day is 300,000 a month. That's 4 million a year. And that's just a modest thing that's just a modest operation right there. When Hopkins was doing it with the Colombos and other families, maybe Genovese, they're making 60, 70, $80 million a year. And the people were more or less structured to do, or when they generated that money, they had accountants, they had legitimate businesses, they could shelter that money through. And you never hear about that on the mob, these mob channels. You never hear about it. But my godfather would sometimes, like an armored truck has a security guard. Well, he would have to, when they took in the receipts and then they'd bring them over to, the captain or something like that, there could be tens of thousands. So my godfather, who did work for them anyways, along with the Genovese or whoever needed his services, he would provide security for them, because a lot of people might be thinking, oh, there's the guy going with the numbers money. He's an easy target. But it might be my godfather and another 1 or 2 or 3 bodyguards that are going with the man with the bag. In case anybody gets cute and has any ideas, they're gonna secure that money. And but the crime was down there. There's people weren't trying to just rob, like if you're hungry in the streets, they let the hobos and homeless sleep right in those stores. They put a cot up for them, feed them. They didn't want the community to be afraid to walk the streets and go to these stores and gamble with the numbers game. So they figured, well, let's help the homeless out so they're not, being frightened by getting mugged or stuff like that, because crime, a desperate person, a homeless person is a desperate person, he might want to mug. So the mafia tried to cover every aspect of this operation and make sure that everything was going smooth, right down to the homeless. Make sure they had a cot in the back or sleep, and they didn't want to be found in the street. And in the wintertime, they opened the doors up in the back and said, come on in, eat and everything. And some of them homeless people would do odd jobs in those stores, after they close. Okay, you can sleep in the back, but mop the floors down, clean the windows, maybe restock the shelves, and everybody wins. See the Mafia? Everybody won with that operation. The government handles the numbers. They vacuum all the money out of society, and nobody even knows where it goes. Well, that's that, folks. Hit the like button, subscribe, if you're able to join, support the channel and everything else. T-Bird, thanks for the super chat. And that's that. I appreciate your support. There's different membership levels, and when I do the members only, I'll communicate in the chat with the members only for those members. So thanks a lot, folks. God bless you all. It's the last day of summer, but it's the first day of fall, and that's a beautiful thing too. Thanks for your support. Like, share, subscribe, and join membership at a certain level. Thanks for your support.